The episode opens in grim silence, revealing a battlefield completely engulfed in flames, where everything has already been reduced to ashes. The brutal Triarchy forces responsible for this destruction are shown scattered across the beach alongside their ruthless leader, Craghas Drahar, known as the Crabfeeder, who watches the carnage through his cold steel mask. Suddenly, the sky splits as Daemon Targaryen arrives riding his massive dragon, Caraxes. The beast unleashes a torrential wave of dragon fire, burning everything in its path and incinerating the Triarchy lines. Panicked soldiers scream through the smoke, shouting, "The dragon is here!" Though the dragon burns dozens of men alive, the true leader, Craghas Drahar, manages to survive by staying hidden deep inside a fortified cave network. The hidden leader refuses to show himself, waiting out the flames in absolute silence. Seizing a momentary opening, a Triarchy archer fires a heavy arrow that strikes Caraxes first, and a secondary volley hits Daemon as well. Physically compromised and unable to flush his enemy out, Daemon is forced to retreat, leaving the hidden leader alive and undefeated. The narrative shifts to King's Landing, where King Viserys I Targaryen is spending time with his young son, Prince Aegon. Standing nearby, the hand of the king, Lord Otto Hightower, strokes the king's ego by observing, "Your Grace, his hair is just like yours." Viserys smiles warmly, replying, "Yes, just like mine." Otto continues his flattery, noting, "His eyes are like yours too," prompting Viserys to proudly ask, "And his mouth is like mine, isn't it?" Otto smiles, reinforcing the boy's royal stature by adding, "He's only 2 years old, but he already carries himself like a king. This morning he even tried to pick up an apple and eat it by himself." Shortly after, Otto speaks privately with his older brother, Hobart Hightower, Lord of Old Town. Looking over the bustling court, Hobart remarks, "There are many people gathered here today. I'm sure by the end of the celebration, we'll have even more reasons to celebrate." Otto, understanding the underlying political pressure, asks, "What do you mean?" Hobart leans in, stating, "Aegon is about to receive another title. He's grown up. Viserys will soon name him as his heir." Otto, knowing the king's stubbornness, warns him, "I wouldn't count on that too much." Hobart counters, "He's the king's first son," but Otto pushes back, noting, "I don't think his grace takes that matter as seriously as you do." Hobart firmly places the political burden back on Otto, concluding, "Then it's your responsibility to convince him." The atmosphere fractures when Lord Tywin Lannister arrives to interrupt the king with critical military intelligence. "Your Grace, I bring urgent news from the Stepstones. The Crabfeeder has captured Bloodstone," Tywin reports. Viserys, thoroughly exhausted by the topic, snaps, "Not today, Tywin." Tywin persists, warning, "The situation in the Stepstones is very serious, Your Grace," but Viserys angrily dismisses it, stating, "It's been 3 years. It can wait another 3 days." Turning to his king's guard, Viserys orders, "Prepare the horses for the journey." The guard confirms, "They're ready, Your Grace." Viserys notes, "Lord Jason Lannister will be waiting for us at Kingswood," before looking around the crowded space to ask, "Has anyone seen Rhaenyra?" The response is absolute silence, "No, Your Grace." Inside the council chambers, the remaining lords continue discussing the tactical nightmare of the war. They've taken shelter in the caves of Bloodstone, and the dragons cannot easily reach them. Many of our foot soldiers are being forced to retreat. "Everyone knows how dangerous it is to fight there," a council member states. Viserys, utterly distracted by his daughter's absence, interrupts again, demanding, "Where is Rhaenyra?" No one has an answer. Ser Harold Westerling of the Kingsguard steps forward to report on the internal fracture of the rogue army, noting, "There is growing division among our men. Demon soldiers are losing hope and have begun questioning his commands." Lord Lionel Strong adds a layer of political caution, warning, "Daemon and Lord Corlys began this war without the king's approval. If Your Grace interferes now, it may make the crown appear weak." Viserys, completely boiling over, cuts through the statecraft to shout, "Will someone please tell me where Rhaenyra is?" The scene cuts sharply to Princess Rhaenyra sitting peacefully in the secluded palace gardens while a royal bard plays an intimate song on his lute. As the melody finishes, Rhaenyra softly commands, "Sing it again." The bard politely hesitates, suggesting, "If you wish, Princess, I could perform a different song." Rhaenyra maintains her cold stance, repeating, "No. Sing the same one again." As the musician resumes, Queen Alicent Hightower enters the garden, heavily pregnant. She immediately overrides the princess, telling the bard, "Who told you to stop? Start from the beginning." The bard quickly complies. Alicent then addresses her estranged friend, stating, "Everyone is waiting for you outside. The royal party is ready to leave." Rhaenyra deflects, answering, "I've already eaten. I'd rather stay here and read." Alicent immediately dismisses the bard, prompting Rhaenyra to snap, "Did I tell you to leave?" Alicent asserts her royal authority, correcting her, "The queen wishes for you to leave immediately." As they walk toward the courtyard, the common folk and minor nobility line the paths, calling out, "Long live the princess, and long live the queen." Alicent tries to break through Rhaenyra's armor, saying, "The king wants you to come with us." Rhaenyra retorts with bitter sarcasm, "The king has many things to do that don't require me." Alicent pushes forward, suggesting, "He wants the whole family to be together. Perhaps you'll even enjoy the hunt." Rhaenyra looks at her coldly, asking, "Was that his order as well?" Alicent nods gently, confirming, "Yes." Left with no political alternative, a deeply reluctant Rhaenyra joins the procession. The royal hunting party leaves King's Landing, traveling through the countryside in a massive line of gold-trimmed, heavily decorated carriages. Inside the main royal wheelhouse, King Viserys, Rhaenyra, and Alicent ride together in dense, suffocating silence. Viserys tries desperately to manufacture a joyful family dynamic, asking, "Isn't it wonderful that our whole family is together, celebrating and going on an adventure?" A Grand Maester attending to the king cautiously notes, "Your Grace, you shouldn't be traveling in your condition," but Viserys waves off the physical ailment, insisting, "Being out in nature during the journey will be good for me." Turning his attention back to Rhaenyra, Viserys broaches the subject of her future, stating, "Sooner or later you'll have children of your own." Rhaenyra fires back with an icy defensive tone, "Don't make me so proud. It's not as wonderful as you make it sound." Viserys sighs, muttering, "The days may be long but they pass quickly," before urging her, "You should come hunting with me today." Rhaenyra objects flatly, saying, "I don't think so. When boars are killed they scream like children. I don't like it at all." Viserys tries to rationalize the violence of the court, replying, "That's what hunting is, Rhaenyra." Rhaenyra glares at him, asking, "Then how would you like to take part?" Viserys tries to assert his paternal authority, stating, "What difference does it make what I think? You're my daughter, the princess, and you have a duty." Rhaenyra murmurs under her breath, "It seems I'm the only one who still remembers that." Viserys narrows his eyes, asking, "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Rhaenyra snaps, "You don't have to keep reminding me." Viserys counters sharply, "If you fulfilled your duty, I wouldn't have to remind you." Rhaenyra delivers the final, crushing line of the conversation, stating, "No one here cares about what I want," as the carriage grinds to a halt. The royal party arrives at the Grand Kingswood hunting camp, greeted by a massive, cheering crowd of high lords and ladies shouting, "Long live the king! Welcome to Prince Aegon's second name day celebration." Rhaenyra separates herself from her family immediately, walking into the camp completely alone, watching the high nobility indulge in wine and decadent feasts. Inside the secondary pavilion tent, a group of highborn noblewomen are gathered for tea, gossip, and politics. Lady Syra Lannister shifts the conversation to the dangers of the realm, noting, "Lady Johanna has been missing ever since Lord Swan's ships passed through the Stepstones." Another noblewoman gasps, asking, "What will happen to Lady Johanna?" Jocelyn Redwine answers callously, "If the stories are true, she'll be sold to one of the pleasure houses in the free cities." Shifting away from the grim reality, another lady sighs, "The gods did not make me for hunting." At that moment, the club-footed Larry Strong approaches Rhaenyra's table, politely asking, "Princess, may I sit with you?" Rhaenyra welcomes him, saying, "Of course. Please join us." He is introduced to the circle as the youngest son of the Master of Laws, Lord Lionel Strong. Lady Redwine resumes her political commentary, stating, "My husband says no king has ever been able to control the Stepstones for long. It's a harsh place fit only for wild creatures." Turning her gaze to the air, she adds, "Perhaps the princess can tell us more." Rhaenyra responds defensively, "I have nothing to tell. I've never been to the Stepstones." Lady Redwine continues to push, asserting, "This war is really your Uncle Daemon's doing, isn't it?" Rhaenyra stands firm, stating, "I haven't spoken to Daemon in a long time." Lady Redwine smirks, noting, "You've taken his place," but Rhaenyra counters, "Daemon made his own choices." Lady Redwine refuses to back down, passive-aggressively blaming the royal family for the economic strain. "The princess is doing her duty well, but the king is paying the price for Daemon's mistakes. He'll have to send his own soldiers and men to solve this." Another lady interjects, "The Iron Throne isn't officially part of this war," but Lady Redwine doubles down, stating, "The war has already reached the Iron Throne, princess. Even if your father refuses to admit it, your uncle has dragged the realm into it." Thoroughly disgusted by the hypocrisy, Rhaenyra turns to her sharply, asking, "And how have you served the realm, Lady Redwine?" Lady Redwine lifts her fork without an ounce of shame, replying, "By eating." Disgusted by the court's hollow luxury, Rhaenyra abruptly stands up and walks out of the pavilion. Seeking escape from the suffocating atmosphere, Rhaenyra walks out past the perimeter of the camp into the quieter clearings of the woods. Her solitude is interrupted by the swaggering, arrogant Lord of Casterly Rock, Jason Lannister, who steps into her path with a smirk. "It's a pleasure to meet you, princess. I've often wondered why your second name day celebration wasn't as grand," he remarks smoothly. Rhaenyra answers with a flat, unimpressed expression, "Neither I nor Aegon remembers anything about it." Ignoring her clear disinterest, he bows slightly, introducing himself, "Lord Jason Lannister." He motions to a servant and offers her a cup, saying, "Perhaps you'll enjoy this. It's the finest honey wine you've ever tasted." Rhaenyra accepts the drink out of sheer social obligation. Jason immediately launches into a boastful pitch, stating, "Kingswood is excellent for hunting, but the finest hunting grounds are near Casterly Rock, beside the river. Have you ever been there?" Rhaenyra replies distantly, "Once with my mother when I was very young. I don't remember much about it." Jason continues to flaunt his immense wealth and status, stating, "The high tower in Old Town is 3 times taller than people claim. They say if you stand at the top on the right day, you can watch the sunset over the sea. The view is truly magnificent." He then leans in to drop his true transactional offer. "I don't have a dragon pit, but I certainly have the wealth to build one." Rhaenyra narrows her eyes, questioning him, "And why would you need a dragon pit?" Jason smiles with supreme confidence, replying, "To house the dragons." He pauses, letting his political ambitions clear, adding, "I would do anything for my queen, or rather for my wife." Realizing her father is actively treating her title as a bartering chip to buy Lannister loyalty, Rhaenyra hands back the cup, states, "Thank you for the wine," and leaves him standing alone in the brush. Furious, Rhaenyra storms back into the main royal tent to directly confront King Viserys. Cornering him away from the guest, she demands, "Is that all I'm worth in your eyes? Just a prize to be handed over to one of the great houses?" Viserys tries to maintain a calm, diplomatic composure, explaining, "You're of marriageable age now, Rhaenyra, and Jason Lannister is a suitable match for you." Rhaenyra counters fiercely, "He only thinks about himself," but Viserys fires right back, "I thought that was a quality the two of you shared." Viserys steps closer, letting his exhaustion show as he gestures to the weight of his crown. "You're old enough to marry, and I'm growing older every day. The realm needs me everywhere. You've received many marriage proposals, and every time I've tried to speak to you about them, you've refused." Rhaenyra holds her ground, asserting, "Because I don't want to get married yet." Viserys lowers his voice, stating firmly, "I'm not above duty and tradition either, Rhaenyra." At that exact moment, Lord Otto Hightower breaks into the tent, interrupting the explosive family argument. Viserys turns back to his daughter one last time, stating definitively, "You will have to marry." Otto then addresses the king with immense gravity, "Your Grace, the royal huntsmen have sent word. They've spotted a white hart. Such a creature is rarely seen in these forests." He smiles, turning it into a divine political omen, adding, "There could be no better gift for Prince Aegon's name day." Blinded by rage, humiliation, and a sense of absolute betrayal, Rhaenyra runs out of the camp, throws herself onto her horse and gallops blindly into the deep, dark wilderness of the Kingswood. Ser Criston Cole of the Kingsguard immediately leaps onto his mount, shouting, "Princess! Please wait," as he charges after her into the dense trees. Deep within the primordial forest floors, Criston finally catches up to her horse, calling out, "Princess, slow down." Rhaenyra pulls her horse to a stop, venting her absolute rage. "My father is trying to bargain me away to Jason Lannister. He only named me heir so I could be traded for the wealth of Casterly Rock." Criston, looking around the unmapped, dangerous woods as twilight fades, gently advises, "We should return to the camp, Princess." Rhaenyra looks at the open canopy, defying her father's court by saying, "The day's beautiful. Why don't we ride toward Kingswood instead?" As they walk their horses through the deepening shadows, Rhaenyra calms down, asking a rare personal question, "Were you ever betrothed, Ser Criston?" Criston looks back at his past, answering, "I always loved adventure while my father served in the Blackhaven garrison. But my family station was never high enough for an engagement. Before joining the Kingsguard, I could have married anyone." Rhaenyra sighs bitterly, murmuring, "At least you have control over your own life." Criston reminds her of her vast privilege, noting, "Many people would gladly trade places with you," but Rhaenyra counters instantly, "None of them would truly be living my life. I'm the Princess of Dragonstone, but only in name." She looks at him, remembering his rise from common birth. "There was a time not long ago, when you had the power to write your own name into the history books." Criston softens, looking at her with absolute loyalty as he replies, "When your father chose me for the Kingsguard and gave me that honor, it changed my life. I owe all of it to your kindness." Rhaenyra uses this to validate her current defiance, concluding, "So don't tell me my choices mean nothing." The narrative shifts back to the heart of the royal hunting party, where Otto Hightower, the Kingsguard, and several prominent lords are clustered around a tracking map. A veteran royal huntsman bows before King Viserys, reporting, "Your Grace, the tracks lead east. They're only 2 or 3 hours old. My scouts have followed them. The White Hart is larger than any stag we've seen before, and we know where it is now." Otto Hightower steps into the light of the torches, framing the hunt as a sign of divine right for Alicent's bloodline, stating, "Before the dragons conquered Westeros, the White Hart was the royal symbol of the kings. For it to appear on this day, perhaps it is the will of the gods." Another loyal lord chimes in, reinforcing the narrative, "It seems the gods are smiling upon your grace today." Later that evening, King Viserys stands among the gathered lords as a wealthy noble steps forward to present a beautifully crafted heavy steel hunting spear. Your Grace, I had this forged in the Golden Gallery in honor of the prince, the lord states proudly. Viserys accepts it, noting, it's very fine. The noble bows, adding, I hope it helps you bring down the White Hart, while an adjacent lord remarks, the Prince of the Seven Kingdoms. It seems the gods have blessed this day. Viserys, masking his internal exhaustion, replies, thank you for your gift. Lord Jason Lannister takes this moment to aggressively corner the king regarding his marriage suit. It would be a great honor to marry Princess Rhaenyra, your Grace. The proposal I offer would strengthen both the crown and your daughter, Jason states confidently. Viserys, insulted by the implication that his house is weak, narrows his eyes and asks, so you believe House Targaryen needs more strength? Jason tries to dance around the insult, asking, if someone offered you more dragons, would you refuse them? Viserys retorts flatly, do you have more dragons to offer? Jason shifts his strategy to a deeply condescending political argument, stating, Casterly Rock is a magnificent place. Rhaenyra would rule there beside me, and many would believe the damage caused by naming her heir has finally been repaired. Viserys freezes, his voice dropping to a dangerous icy register as he asks, what damage? Jason, realizing he has overstepped, nervously clarifies, if you decide to name Prince Aegon as your heir. Viserys steps directly into his space, demanding, and when exactly did I say I would do that? Jason stammers, I assumed so because he is your firstborn son. Many of us believe that. Viserys growls, have my bannermen begun questioning my choice of heir? Jason quickly tries to backpedal, no, your Grace. Not at all. Viserys barks, it is your duty to inform me if there is rebellion in my realm. Jason bows frantically, stammering, rebellion? No, nothing like that, your Grace. I only meant, Viserys cuts him off with absolute royal finality, declaring, I have not changed my decision. Rhaenyra remains my chosen heir. It would be wise if every lord in the realm remembered that. And thank you for your gift. Jason bows in utter humiliation, muttering, yes, your Grace, before retreating into the dark. A royal huntsman rushes into the clearance to break the tension, announcing, your Grace, Lord Strong's men have found fresh tracks. They have followed the White Hart. It cannot escape now. A lord smiles, saying, it seems you'll soon receive your gift. As the crowd disperses, Otto Hightower slides into Jason's place, asking smoothly, your Grace, have you given any more thought to Lord Jason's proposal? Viserys walks away, scoffing, the man is full of pride. Otto pushes further, reminding him of his absolute power, you are not only Rhaenyra's father, your Grace. You're also the king. Whatever you decide will become law. Viserys sighs heavily, admitting, I don't want to force my will upon her, Otto. I want her to be happy. Otto calculatedly turns this desire against him, suggesting, that means there must be someone better than the Lord of Casterly Rock. Someone with whom you believe the princess would be happier. Viserys looks at him, asking, and who is that? Otto drops his ultimate trap, Prince Aegon. Viserys stops dead in his tracks, looking at Otto with utter disbelief, stating, he's only 2 years old, Otto. Otto rationalizes it coldly, arguing, but such a match would end the endless proposals for Rhaenyra's hand. Viserys, suffocating under the transparent power grabs of his court, shuts down the conversation completely, shouting, I came here to hunt. I'm suffocating from all this political talk. We will not speak of this any further. The next morning, the frantic search for the missing heir continues. A Kingsguard captain approaches King Viserys, reporting, your Grace, we've sent riders to find Princess Rhaenyra. Ser Criston went after her as well. Hopefully he'll find her. Viserys, looking out over the misty forest, mutters with a mix of affection and deep exhaustion, that girl is far too reckless. If I had tried to force her to marry Lord Jason Lannister, she probably would have run away just to defy me. He sighs and adds, what a great Targaryen king I am, powerless before my own 17-year-old daughter. Lord Lionel Strong, standing nearby, offers a historical perspective to comfort his sovereign. King Jaehaerys ruled for 55 years, your Grace, yet even he was driven nearly mad by his children, especially one of his daughters. It's almost a royal tradition. Seizing a quiet moment, Lionel asks, may I offer some advice, your Grace? Viserys smiles cynically, assuming another lord is putting forth their own kin. Let me guess. You think your son, Ser Harwin Breakbones, the strongest knight in the Seven Kingdoms, is the right match for Rhaenyra? Lionel smiles warmly, displaying his rare, true integrity. I'm honored you think so, your Grace, but no. I believe Princess Rhaenyra should marry Ser Laenor Velaryon. Viserys listens intently as Lionel explains the profound statecraft of the choice. A few years ago, I advised you to unite your house with his family, and my reasons haven't changed. Laenor is a true Valyrian. He carries the blood of your cousin, Princess Rhaenys, and he is the heir to the wealthiest house in the realm. The division between your house and Lord Corlys has never truly healed. Whether you admit it or not, this marriage would repair that rift. We can only pray that Laenor survives the war in the Stepstones. The narrative shifts to the cold, misty forest floor from the previous night, where Rhaenyra and Ser Criston Cole have camped by a small fire. Criston looks at the dying embers, pleading one last time, "Princess, this is the last time I'll ask. We should return." Rhaenyra stares into the woods, answering flatly, "I want to stay here." Criston argues, "His Grace must be worried about you," but Rhaenyra snaps, "Your king can spend the rest of his life worrying if he wishes." She turns her eyes to him, exposing her deepest vulnerability. "Tell me, Ser Criston, do you think the people of this realm will ever truly accept me as their queen?" Criston looks at her with absolute conviction, replying, "They'll have no other choice, princess." Suddenly, a violent crashing sound shatters the silence of the dark brush. They jump to their feet, fearing an ambush or an assassin, but out of the thickets charges a massive, snarling feral wild boar. Criston immediately draws his steel, stepping in front of the princess. The beast slams into Criston with immense force, knocking him hard into the dirt. The boar then turns its primal fury directly onto Rhaenyra, pinning her to the forest floor. As the beast prepares to tear her throat open, Rhaenyra pulls her Valyrian steel hunting dagger. In an explosion of pure survival instinct and raw, unbridled rage, she ruthlessly stabs the boar's throat over and over again, screaming until the beast goes cold and limp. Back at the Grand Pavilion, King Viserys stands entirely alone in front of a massive roaring fire, heavily intoxicated and deeply depressed. Queen Alicent approaches him quietly, asking, "Are you all right, Your Grace?" Viserys looks into the flames, opening up his soul. "You know, I named Rhaenyra my heir to protect the realm from Daemon. She was my only child. She was the realm's delight. I gave her that title with great love because I believed there was no one else I could trust." He pauses, staring into the embers as he shifts to the secret burden of the Targaryen line. "There have been many dragon riders in my family, but only a few were dreamers. What is the power of dragons compared to the power of prophecy?" He turns to his wife, his voice cracking with guilt. "When Rhaenyra was still a child, I had a dream. I saw a son of mine wearing the Conqueror's crown. I wanted that dream to come true so badly that I convinced myself it was destiny. I wanted to see that dream every night, but it never returned. I poured all my hopes and desires into it, and my obsession cost Emma her life. I believed naming Rhaenyra my heir would ease my grief and make everything right." He lowers his head in absolute despair, weeping, "But then I remarried, and I had a son. What if I was wrong?" At dawn, the horn blows, and Viserys rides out into the misty forest with the royal hunters, Otto Hightower, and his personal guard. A master huntsman points to a clearing on the right, stating, "To your right, Your Grace." It's not the White Hart, but it's a magnificent stag. The hunters drag forward a massive, standard brown stag, holding it down with heavy ropes. Viserys steps forward with the heavy spear gifted by the Lannisters. In a pathetic display of failing health and fading strength, he drives the spear down but misses the vital organs. The stag screams and struggles in agony. A hunter steps in, guiding his hand, saying, "Again, Your Grace." Viserys drives the spear down a second time, finally killing the animal. The gathered nobles applaud the hollow victory. Simultaneously, deep in another part of the forest, Rhaenyra and Criston walk their horses back, dragging the carcass of the slain wild boar behind them. Suddenly, the mist parts, and the actual legendary, majestic White Hart steps into the path directly in front of her. The animal stands tall, untamed, and breathtakingly white. Criston instantly puts his hand on the hilt of his sword, preparing to strike, but Rhaenyra locks eyes with the ancient symbol of absolute royalty and softly commands, "No. Let it go." The White Hart looks at her for one final moment before peacefully turning and leaping away into the deep forest. Rhaenyra rides back into the Grand Royal camp covered from head to toe in dark, dried boar blood, with the dead beast slung over the back of her mount. The entire camp goes dead silent. The High Lords, ladies, King Viserys and Otto Hightower stand frozen, watching her ride through their luxury like a battle-hardened conqueror, utterly ignoring their stares. Later that afternoon, Otto Hightower visits Alicent in her private pavilion tent while the infant Prince Aegon cries loudly in his cradle. Otto looks at his daughter, asking, "Your Grace, how did you enjoy the hunt?" Alicent answers distantly, "It was fine." Otto shifts his focus to the crying toddler, asking, "And how is our future prince?" He paces the tent, driving his political manipulation deep into her mind. The Lannisters and the Redwynes were very impressed with him, as they should be. He is the future of this kingdom. You saw with your own eyes how the entire realm celebrated him. By giving the king a son, you've helped erase the sorrow he carried for the last 15 years. Aegon, as his name suggests, was born to rule the Seven Kingdoms. If Viserys names him his heir, the entire realm will stand behind him. He steps closer, looking at her silent expression, demanding, "Doesn't that make you happy? Don't you want to see your son become king?" Alicent remains completely silent. Otto pushes over the edge, exposing the lethal stakes of the succession war. "You must face the truth. If Rhaenyra rules instead of Aegon, our family will lose everything. They may all swear loyalty to her, including our own house. Alicent tries to defend her friend, stating softly, Rhaenyra would make a good queen, but Otto scoffs at the idea, declaring, even if she were another Jaehaerys it wouldn't matter. Rhaenyra is a woman. And what about my grandson? Should my grandson surrender his birthright to his sister? Aegon is the king's firstborn son. If he isn't made heir, the realm will suffer because of it. The road ahead may be uncertain, but the ending is clear. Aegon will be king. And you must be the one to convince Viserys, because he will never come to that conclusion on his own. Back at the Red Keep, King Viserys sits in his private chambers, physically broken and nursing a massive hangover from the hunt. Alicent enters the room quietly, approaching his desk to ask, how are you feeling, Your Grace? Viserys groans, looking at his deteriorating hand, replying, the gods are punishing me. Alicent asks softly, how was the hunt? Viserys murmurs, it was good. Alicent takes a seat, carefully guiding the conversation toward the princess. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. I don't think Rhaenyra likes Jason Lannister. She's upset. Viserys answers defensively, I warned you. Rhaenyra is of age now. She must marry a good man who will respect her and protect her. In this matter, her wishes cannot be the only consideration. Alicent counsels him with gentle grace, saying, I believe Rhaenyra will marry Your Grace. But she should feel that the decision is her own. The door opens and a royal messenger enters to deliver a sealed scroll. Viserys takes it, asking, what is this? The messenger bows, stating, a letter from Lord Corlys Velaryon and Prince Daemon. Viserys frowns, asking, when did it arrive? The messenger reveals the grim reality of the Stepstones. The fighting in the Stepstones continues. They are losing the war badly. Alicent looks at the letter, asking, may I see it? The messenger confirms, it's a request for aid. Alicent looks at her husband, asking point blank, then why not send help? Viserys sighs, letting his pride rule his words, because this is a war started by men who ignored my decisions. If I rescue Daemon and the Velaryons now, what will the realm think of its king? Alicent counters with pure compassion, stating, they'll think you are a good man who loves his brother. Viserys looks at her with immense gratitude, admitting, if you truly believe that, then you're kinder than I deserve. I always end up making one person happy while disappointing another. Alicent leaves him with a singular piece of undeniable statecraft, asking, then answer one simple question. What is better for the realm, the Crabfeeder's victory or his defeat? Viserys realizes she is correct. He turns to his Kingsguard, commanding, Ser Adam, leave for the Stepstones immediately and deliver this message to Prince Daemon. The knight bows, shouting, at once, Your Grace. Later, the narrative transitions to the small council chamber, where Rhaenyra enters just as the lords are packing away their ledgers. She looks at the table, noting, the king has finally sent help to the Stepstones. She narrows her eyes, asking, did Daemon personally ask for help? A council lord answers honestly, he'll be dead soon if nothing is done, and the king won't allow that. Viserys steps into the room, looking at his daughter, asking, don't you think I've made the right decision? Rhaenyra turns on him with a cold glare, answering, what I think doesn't seem to matter. It's as if my presence makes no difference. Viserys snaps back, exhausted by the constant friction. Daemon has become a thorn in my side. Must everything become a battle with you as well? Rhaenyra demands, is your plan still to marry me off at any cost? Viserys softens his tone, saying, forgive me, Rhaenyra. I was only trying to help you. Rhaenyra spills her years of accumulated resentment, stating, whenever you try to help me, it only feels like another loss. Now someone else has taken my place. The daughter of the Hightowers, exactly as everyone always wanted. And now you'll use me for your own advantage as well, for alliances, armies, and fleets. Viserys tries to soothe her, saying, you've misunderstood me, Rhaenyra. She fires back, who doesn't understand your intentions? Even Jason Lannister understood them. You said it yourself. The lords of the realm pursue me as though I'm some great prize. Viserys sighs, speaking with absolute paternal honesty, it is true that royal marriages strengthen alliances and increase the power of the realm. Rhaenyra mutters, you've always believed that. Viserys steps closer to her, looking into her eyes, my marriage to your mother wasn't like that. I loved her. She made me the man I became. I don't want to change who you are, my child. You've been lonely and angry for many years. I won't live forever. I want to see you happy and fulfilled. Rhaenyra looks down, asking softly, will marriage make me happy? Viserys answers, it can give you a family. Rhaenyra pushes the final political knife in, noting, if politics were all that mattered, you would have married Lena Velaryon. Viserys nods slowly, admitting her hit was fair. Yes, that's true. But you must marry. Strengthen your claim. Build your own support. Choose the man yourself. Find someone you truly want, just as I once did. Viserys then places his hand over her heart, looking her dead in the eyes to deliver an absolute, unyielding royal vow. I swear to you on your mother's memory that you will not be replaced as my heir. The narrative cuts directly to the windswept, bleak shores of the Stepstones, where the Valyrian war effort has reached absolute rock bottom. Inside a makeshift tactical tent, Lord Corlys Velaryon, his brother Vaemond, and his son Ser Laenor are surrounded by bleeding commanders, arguing over a map. If our food runs out any sooner, we may lose another 1,500 men, a weary commander warns. Another adds desperately, we only have enough supplies for 2 more weeks. If we're ceramic we might stretch them a little longer. Corlys slams his hand on the table, stating, I've sent word to Driftmark for more ships, but they won't arrive in time. A commander suggests a repeat strategy, we keep fighting and the Crabfeeder knows it. We have to keep up the attacks and continue sending the dragons, forcing the enemy to stay inside the caves. Laenor instantly cuts through the redundant tactical loop, explaining, it won't work, father. The Crabfeeder has changed his position and is hiding deeper in the caves. Every time we attack with dragons they simply retreat underground. Another officer points out the mathematical failure of their power. The dragons can keep Bloodstone surrounded, but they can't destroy enemies hiding inside the caves. They have no reason to come out. Corlys looks out over the dark water, stating grimly, then we'll have to give them one. A soldier scoffs, muttering, who would be willing to do that? Suddenly, a voice outside screams, the dragon is coming back, as Caraxes flies low over the camp. A bleeding soldier stands up, muttering, who here would willingly walk to his death? Any man who volunteers would have to be mad. Vaemond growls under his breath, we're losing because of Daemon, but at least he's still fighting. Laenor turns to his father, questioning the entire Crown Alliance. If King's Landing won't support Daemon, then why are we still fighting this war? At that exact moment, a royal skiff grinds onto the sand, and Ser Adam steps ashore, carrying the official seal of King Landing. He marches straight to Daemon Targaryen, handing him the scroll. Daemon cracks the wax seal and reads his brother's words. Viserys is sending a massive royal fleet of 10 warships and 2,000 crown infantry to bail out his failing campaign. The letter shatters Daemon's intense, volatile pride. Accepting his brother's rescue means admitting complete military incompetence and remaining forever in Viserys' political shadow. A terrifying, psychotic rage takes hold of Daemon. Without uttering a single syllable, he spins on the royal messenger and begins savagely beating Ser Adam with his heavy steel gauntlets. He punches the knight into the wet sand, kicking him ruthlessly and slamming his armor into his ribs, completely unhinged as Valyrian soldiers rush forward to pull him off the bleeding messenger. Daemon stands panting, looking across the dark strait at the caves of Bloodstone. He realizes he has only one option left to preserve his name, unconditional victory or immediate, violent death. Acting entirely on his own, Daemon rows a small, solitary boat across the water, stepping onto the jagged shores of the enemy stronghold completely by himself. The beach around him is a horrific graveyard, littered with the rotting bodies of slaughtered sailors. Daemon walks forward into the open sands, slowly waving a white flag of total surrender. High on the rocky cliff faces, Craghas Drahar emerges from the dark mouth of a cave, peering down suspiciously through his steel mask. Daemon marches right into the center of the kill zone, drops heavily to his knees and unbuckles his Valyrian steel sword, Dark Sister, raising it high above his head as a submissive offering. The Crabfeeder watches for a long moment before signaling his vanguard to secure the prize. A Triarchy captain cautiously approaches Daemon to accept the blade. The captain takes Dark Sister, inspecting it before turning back to the caves to signal to the archers above that the prince has capitulated. Believing the legendary rogue prince has finally been broken, dozens upon dozens of Triarchy soldiers pour out of the cave entrances, swarming onto the beach to claim their victory. The moment the enemy forces surround him completely, Daemon's eyes snap open with terrifying malice. He pulls a hidden dagger from his boot, driving it straight through the throat of the captain. In a split second he reclaims Dark Sister and launches into an absolutely savage one-man slaughter. The Triarchy archers immediately unleash an intense hail of arrows from the cliffs. Daemon sprints through the sand, a whirlwind of Valyrian steel, cutting down 3 soldiers in a single swing, parrying spears, and slicing through throats in a breathless, cinematic sequence. He runs through a wall of crossfire, taking a heavy arrow straight into his left shoulder. He stumbles, spitting blood, but pushes forward, taking another arrow deep into his thigh. Hobbled and bleeding out, Daemon continues to slice through the surrounding infantry, completely trapped as hundreds of Triarchy reinforcements flood out of the caves to crush him under sheer numbers. Just as Daemon falls to his knees, completely pinned down and facing imminent execution, a massive shadow blankets the entire beach. Ser Laenor Velaryon arrives atop his silver-gray dragon, Sea Smoke, roaring over the cliffs and unleashing a tidal wave of blue-white dragonfire that completely incinerates the Triarchy archer lines. Simultaneously, Lord Corlys Velaryon roars onto the beach leading the full unified force of the Valyrian infantry, screaming a deafening battle cry. The entire landscape descends into a massive, chaotic, bloody melee. The dragon fire clears the battlefield, burning the fleeing soldiers to ash and forcing the Triarchy out into the absolute open. Daemon, completely ignoring the arrows protruding from his flesh, locks his gaze onto the running form of Craghas Drahar, who is sprinting frantically back toward the safety of the deepest cave. Daemon unleashes a feral scream, charging into the dark mouth of the cave alone after him. For a long, agonizing sequence, the heavy sounds of the battle outside fade into a tense, suffocating silence around the mouth of the cave. Then a lone figure slowly emerges from the shadows. It is Daemon Targaryen. He is completely drenched from head to toe in thick black blood and viscera. Dragging behind him in the sand is the severed, mutilated upper torso of the Crabfeeder, held casually by the leg. Daemon throws the corpse into the wet sand, breathing heavily as he looks out over his victorious men, having won his war through sheer, terrifying madness. The screen cuts to black.